Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film Transcendence. One of the things that makes a film about technology successful is its ability to talk about how that affects people and how our lifestyle has changed because of technology. And it has to kind of do with human nature and how people are affected by it. And Transcendence certainly likes to talk about technology and likes to think it's saying something about technology, but it really doesn't get any of the human element or any of the characters to really connect or be human whatsoever. A brilliant computer engineer person played by Johnny Depp and his wife Rebecca Hall and Paul Bentley are about to bring online a computer intelligence that will be self-aware and will connect online and eventually be smarter than everyone in the world that has ever existed, or so Johnny Depp says at the beginning. Then some Luddite terrorists come along and shoot him with a radioactive bullet. At first they think he's fine because it just grazed him, but the radioactivity got in his bloodstream and is slowly killing him. And then his wife decides to transport his brain into this super self-aware computer that they were going to launch but then couldn't because the Luddite terrorists took out a lot of the SI labs around the world. So they take that and they upload his brain into a computer, and then he starts making things better and connecting to the internet and doing all sorts of crazy things. And Paul Bentley, after he's taken by the terrorists, has to decide whether he should stop it or let it continue as Rebecca Hall keeps helping Johnny Depp as this super crazy computer thing. Wally Pfister is a DP I always liked, and regardless of what I thought of a Chris Nolan film, they were always very well shot films, and I wondered what it would be like if he made a feature film and directed a feature film. And I thought, kind of naively I guess, that this film would favor cinematography the way when an actor becomes a director, they usually favor acting over everything in their films. And I thought probably Wally Pfister would be just like that. Unfortunately, he really isn't, and although he does have a good DP in Jess Hall, who also shot Hot Fuzz, by the way, there's nothing that I would say is very Wally Pfister about it. I kind of wish that Wally Pfister had actually shot Transcendence, which would have been nice, but unfortunately he didn't. So it's not really that visual. I think if you saw this in an IMAX or a large format screen, you'd be fairly disappointed. When I think of Wally Pfister's cinematography, especially where it was going, because he's been Nolan's DP from Memento on, and if you think of all that stuff, that's stuff that regardless of how you feel about it works very well in the IMAX and can be really fun to see in the IMAX. And this, I really don't understand why it would be in the IMAX. It doesn't need to be whatsoever. It wouldn't be thrilling at all. He really doesn't have a knack for character either. You'd think, oh, well, did he dial down the cinematography so he could focus more on the story and the character? He doesn't do that either. Although the story and the plot of this film acts like the Johnny Depp character and Rebecca Hall's character and Paul Bentley's character are very important to this whole kind of idea, it's really more about the plot. It wants to keep this stupid, weird plot. It wants that to keep going, but won't really give you moments that really help you build the character, understand the character as an audience. So when you're watching Johnny Depp, you don't really get his personality, and then he's dead and in a computer and stuff. And you're like, okay, I get he was like this big computer person and he was about to do this major thing. I understand that part, but that's kind of more his resume. I don't really understand his personality. And Rebecca Hall, I kind of get. I get that she loves Johnny Depp, but you don't really get their personalities per se. You kind of get Paul Bentley's, but they kind of reveal it through plot, not through real character moments. Kate Mara's Luddite terrorist tells us about how he feared that technology was going to be this way. It was like, oh, that is news to me, and I've spent almost 45 minutes with him. I don't think this film and Wally Pfister and his direction cared as much about the character. It cared more about saying how technology is crazy and evil. That's kind of the problem with this film, is it's made by someone who clearly fears technology. I understand Wally Pfister doesn't really love like digital cameras. He shot this on 35mm and he prefers to shoot that way, and he seems probably a little fearful of it, but he doesn't seem to really understand it. There's one part where Johnny Depp says a video went viral, and part of me thought, I don't think they actually know what a viral video is. I don't think anyone who's worked on this film has really seen a viral video. I think they've just heard the term and they went with it. And that seemed to be a lot of this stuff, is like not people who really were into technology. They just kind of use it to make a point that the computers are going to kill us all, but they didn't bother to have anything to say about humanity with that, how humanity was really hindered by it. They didn't really do that because they don't really introduce anyone. They don't really care about introducing us to these characters. So you're just left with kind of a crazy man shouting at the hills, and you'd think like, well, would it be entertaining? Is it interesting? Does it thought-provoking? Well, it's not thought-provoking. It kind of has a fake, silly intellectualism. As a mainstream movie with a big movie star like Johnny Depp, you'd think it would have some cool action sequences or something fun to look at, but it really doesn't. It doesn't offer you anything as a mainstream audience that you would really like. It's focused on this kind of bad structure where suddenly it jumps a couple years and none of the characters look like they've aged. Paul Bentley looks like he shaved, which I guess in 2 years he got around to doing. But the problem with Wally Pfister in this film really is that he just feels like a Chris Nolan light. Chris Nolan always had that thing where he felt people were sheep. He always had an aura of pretentiousness to him. But I think the thing that Wally Pfister doesn't have and Chris Nolan does have is Chris Nolan understood how to entertain the audience. Even if he was saying things that didn't quite work, he'd have a cool action sequence, so I would at least be semi-entertained. In this film, Wally Pfister doesn't have that at all. You're left with these kind of ideas that aren't really well thought out, aren't really that intriguing, and that's what you're supposed to sit through as an audience. It's just really not that fun. Had he trying to say something about these characters and, you know, kind of Silicon Valley and these kind of people who want to do this kind of big technological advances or anything like that, this felt like trying to be a smart movie for stupid people, made by people who thought they were smart but are actually kind of stupid. It doesn't look like Wally Pfister is going to be a great director. He looks like a really boring director. This is like a high-budget TV movie with good color correction. He just doesn't show that he has much interest in character, and that's kind of important if you want to be a big blockbuster director. I think this is a very uneven, bad film about technology made by people who don't really understand or even really like technology. They don't even really refer to Twitter or Facebook. They just call it social media, and I think that's about all they really know about it. So it was really kind of like a Luddite view of technology coming to kill us when we have complex films about human emotions and technology like The Social Network and Her, and then you have Transcendence that is about 20 years behind where we actually are with technology and filmmaking. It's not just that it's outdated that I don't like this film, it's that the plot doesn't work, it's that the characters don't work, it doesn't really work on being a mainstream movie or an arty kind of science fiction film. It is such an antisocial filmmaking experience because it doesn't want to connect to the audience whatsoever, but it also doesn't really want to understand the technology that it's talking about. So it's completely being like, no, you know, I know what I'm doing, fuck you. And to watch that kind of a film is a frustrating experience and an uninteresting experience, frankly. I think if Wally Pfister wants to be a film director, he has to understand the thing that Nolan did understand, is you have to connect with the audience, you have to thrill the audience. And if you're going to make a mainstream movie with movie stars, with big budgets, you kind of have to throw us a ball here or something and be like a little bit social. But instead you get a film that just doesn't really even want an audience. And I think that won't be a problem because I can honestly see this film playing to a lot of empty theaters. So if you have seen Transcendence and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.